Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Matt, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Now I've got a really cool fly for you today. This is another dry fly caddis pattern. This one is the spent partridge caddis. So who created this pattern? Well, I saw a couple of sources that say Mike Lawson did, but I saw a few more sources that say Sheralee Lawson created it. And I got the fly from Randall Scott Stetzer's Flies the Best 1000, and he also gives credit to Sheralee, so I'm gonna go with that. So about Sheralee and Mike Lawson, they run Henry's Fork Anglers in Last Chance, Idaho on the famed Henry's Fork of the Snake River. And they've run this shop since 1976, so going on 45 years. That's a pretty cool story in itself. Now I've never fished Henry's Fork. The only place in Idaho I've been is the North Fork of the Salmon River, but Henry's Fork is definitely on my bucket list. So obviously, I've never been into Mike and Sheralee's shop, but they've got a really cool website. So I'll link to it in the description. Take a look at it if you get a chance. So this fly she created, it's really a pretty simple, just a spent caddis meant to imitate a caddis that's just laid its eggs and it's dying on the water. Lots of times trout will be keying on this. So if you're fishing a caddis hatch, it's always a great idea to have a few spent caddis in your box. And it's a pretty easy pattern, but a really cool looking fly. I think you're going to like it. Let's give it a shot. So there's one in the vise, a spent partridge caddis. Common size for this are 14, as small as a 20. I'm tying this on a 14, standard length dry fly hook, and I'm using olive thread in a 70 denier. I want to put a base down to the start of the bend. Now this is a caddis dry fly, so no tail. Let's go straight to our wax on our thread. Not that much wax, don't get too crazy there. And some olive rabbit. Some olive rabbit fur. If you don't have this, use your dry fly dubbing. Just try to get an olive color, I think. And we're only going to dub it up to about the 2/3 point, so maybe an 1.5 inch noodle. It doesn't have to be a real big one. See how that looks right there. Couple of wraps until I get the dubbing laying down, then you can tighten it up a little bit if you need. So build a little bit of a taper if you can get it, and then just bring it up here to, yeah, about 2/3 is fine right there. And I like that little bump. It's going to help my wing, or the wings, which in this case are 2 small slips of the partridge. That's where it gets a name. Spent partridge caddis. Now tying this on flat. See that right there? And try to keep them flat. They might end up spinning around on you. It's not the easiest thing to do to keep them flat up here. I'm gonna do a loose wrap, a couple of loose wraps, and adjust these things on top. See how those are already kind of spinning on me? But just manipulate them the best you can. And if you mess them up, kind of like I did right there, you can also tie them on one at a time. I had to do that a little while ago, but I'm living on the edge here. I'm trying to catch these in. So a loose wrap, 2 loose wraps, and that's laying on the top. I do want them a little bit flared up though, so let's see if I can make that happen. A couple of tighter wraps right here. Get behind that little bump. And I think that's going to be flared up enough right there. So let's go ahead and just lock these in with a few good turns right there. Snip off that excess. Now, even though this is not a Smoky Mountain pattern, it does use brown and grizzly. Dry fly hackle. Measure your hackle so you're going to get the, 1.5 size of the hook gap right there. I'm going to tie both these in at the same time. Got some bear stem right there. Just a couple of wraps. And then try to get my position. Try to keep them perpendicular to my hook so that those first wraps are going to come off nicely. Yeah, it's not perfect, but I think we can make that work. So we'll see in a minute, I guess, won't we? Now let's go ahead and snip these things off and put a little bit of peacock herl under this hackle. So just one strand here, probably 3 or 4 wraps of it's all it's going to take. And take your thread up to maybe an eye length back. I'm going to save some room for for a head and a whip finish. So I'm just gonna lay this under here. What's that? I don't know, I wasn't counting. Maybe that's 4 wraps, but it's not adding too much bulk, so not a big deal there. Now we've got our Peacock herl underbody. It's just going to give it a little bit of that green and gold. Okay, now I've got some long feathers here. I am not going to need my Hackle pliers, but I'm just trying to get this perpendicular here and try not to let it spin on me as I wrap it up. I'd say 3 turns each is probably going to be sufficient. I'm going to go ahead and, all right, I want to make 4 with my Grizzly. I can spin that back 1 so that I can catch this in here without crowding my eye too much. 2 wraps to lock this Grizzly. Let's go ahead and snip this one off. Now I'm going to wrap this brown up through that. Maybe 3 wraps, we'll see. Just put your wraps down and see how it looks. Just right through the middle of it. Try not to let them spin too much. And try not to crowd your eye. Again, I wasn't counting. I think that's 2 on there right now. Let's go ahead and do 4. Well, or let it slip out of your fingers and have to start over. That happens. Okay, now I'll count 1, 2. Yeah, I'm gonna do 3. Got a pretty good looking hackle right there. It's a little bushy and I'm gonna have a little bit of cleanup on my head because I've let some of those go forward on me, but that's okay. We can live with that. Let's go ahead and snip this off. And I'm just gonna try to push these back. I could probably trim them, but before I do that, I'm gonna just try to push them back with my fingers. Try not to jab my thumb with the hook. Okay. So you see that? I got a few going forward. I'm just gonna snip them off. Try to before I let go with this in my material hand. Because as soon as I let go, the rest of them are gonna bounce a little bit forward on me. But hopefully not too bad. There you go. Not too bad. I think we can still get our whip finish in here. Got a couple of crazies right there. I might have to clean up on the end, but let's go ahead and do our whip finish and then any cleanup. So I think a 4 turn is going to be fine right here. Put my scissors in here. You know what? I'm going to just saw this one, so pull it tight. And if we got any cleanup, now's the time to do it. Got a couple fibers sticking forward right there. Might want to trim, or I might just put my head cement on it and call it done. So there you go, folks. The spent partridge caddis. Pretty cool tie. Not too difficult. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.